Welcome back to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
We're here, as always, to try and distill the complexity in your source material, really help you find the signal in all the noise.
Right.
And today, we have a pretty unique mission, I'd say. We're doing a deep dive into a single source that it gives us maximum promise, but with, well, minimum details.
That's putting it mildly. It's a fascinating challenge. Usually, we've got articles, data sets, sometimes conflicting viewpoints to sift through.
Yeah, pages and pages.
Exactly. Today, the source material you provided is just a title. It's identified as excerpts from Hikaru Kaihatsu's success formula.
Just the title.
That's it. And what really caught my eye is that the document also carried its original Persian script.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, right there below the English, it says UNCA.
Okay, so that's a lot to unpack right there. I mean,
Right.
let's just start with the English. Hikaru Kaihatsu success formula.
Mm-hmm.
That title, it feels like a direct challenge to the whole idea that success is, random or messy.
It does. It suggests certainty.
It demands to be taken seriously. It's like it's saying, I'm a blueprint. So the immediate question that jumps out at me is, what is this repeatable, this codified methodology that's so powerful it earned this specific name?
And that's the interesting part. Because we only have the title, we're kind of forced to treat the title as the content.
Right.
We can't summarize the steps inside it, but we can, and I think we must, analyze the architecture of the promise it's making. I mean, why do so many effective frameworks, whether you're talking military strategy or, business principles, why did they always try to define themselves as a formula?
I think you hit on it right there. The power of that word formula is that it sells rigor.
Rigor, yes.
It implies precision, measurement, and this is the critical part, repetition.
Exactly.
It's saying if I input X, Y, and Z correctly, the output must be success. It sort of bypasses all that fuzzy philosophical advice and just offers a structured path.
It does.
But, okay, here's where I need to push back a little. Isn't the very concept of a success formula just? Isn't it fundamentally a great piece of marketing? Doesn't it risk oversimplifying the beautiful chaos of real life?
That's a very fair challenge. And I think if it were just a checklist, do these 3 things and get rich, then yes, it would absolutely be reductive.
Right.
But when you see high-level thinkers and leaders codify their methods, they're not aiming for rigidity. They're aiming for rigor. I mean, look back historically from stoichiometry and chemistry to Sun Tzu's Art of War. A formula is the distilled essence of cause and effect.
Okay.
The variables are known and controlled. It's a promise that if you define your inputs and your actions, you can start to eliminate chance.
So just by using that word formula, it's demanding that we as learners approach our own goals with a kind of engineering precision.
Yes, treating our resources, our actions, as measurable inputs.
It's a call to professionalize the whole process of achievement.
Exactly. And the second you realize your own pursuit of success isn't precise, that it's actually kind of fuzzy and chaotic, that's when you start to understand the deep appeal of a framework that offers that kind of clarity.
Okay, so let's pivot from the word formula to the name itself, Hikaru Kaihatsu. This is where it gets a very specific philosophical tone. It has pretty distinct East Asian, probably Japanese linguistic roots.
It does.
Let's break down Hikaru first. That word, it often translates to something like shining light or brilliance, right?
That's right. And think about what that suggests for a success formula.
Okay.
It immediately elevates the whole discussion above just transactional success, like optimizing profit. A path to achievement that is rooted in Hikaru, in brilliance, suggests clarity of vision,
Clarity of vision.
transparent execution, and ultimately maybe even some kind of enlightenment or insight. It implies that true success has to be visible, it has to be impactful, and fundamentally sound. It has to be a process that can withstand the light of scrutiny.
So it sets a really high moral and intellectual bar from the get-go.
It does.
Okay, so if Hikaru is about the light, then Kaihatsu is about the action. My understanding is that Kaihatsu speaks to development or innovation or opening up new territory.
Exactly.
So what happens when you combine brilliance with development in a single formula?
Well, you get a framework that, by its very nature, has to be dynamic. It can't be static.
Ah.
A lot of traditional success formulas, they focus on maintenance. Maintain your habits, maintain your wealth. A Kaihatsu formula is a formula for perpetual evolution.
Perpetual evolution. I like that.
The moment you stop developing, you stop innovating, you've actually broken the formula.
That is a crucial distinction. It's not a framework you use once to achieve a goal.
No.
It's a mandate for continuous learning, for adaptation. A successful result today doesn't mean you can just stop applying the formula tomorrow.
Right. It forces you to constantly ask, what's my next step of innovation? Where's the next territory I need to open up?
So we can guess that the steps in this formula, whatever they would compel the user to consistently assess and improve their own methods.
I think so. They would demand a rigor in self-review that goes way beyond a simple quarterly check-in. It's the difference between, say, achieving one goal and building the capacity to achieve any goal.
This is starting to sound much more sophisticated than your typical 7 habits kind of guide.
It is. This is a methodology designed for what you might call enlightened development.
Enlightened development.
And if we connect that back to the success formula part, it provides the definition. Success within this framework is the brilliant and continuous development of your capacity. It's not just the accumulation of assets.
It shifts the entire metric from accumulation to evolution.
Precisely.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, and it's something you pointed out earlier that we can't just gloss over.
The cross-cultural layer.
The cross-cultural layer. The fact that this documentation has a dual identity, a concept with clear Japanese linguistic DNA, Hikaru Kaihatsu, is being circulated with an original Persian script.
It's a huge clue. It raises this extremely important question about provenance and, maybe more importantly, universality. Why would a framework rooted in brilliant development be transcribed and circulated in this specific way?
Right. What does that tell us? Does it imply some unique historical connection, maybe a period of intense knowledge exchange between those cultures?
It could. Or it could be for a very specialized audience. But I think it forces us to zoom out. When a powerful concept is translated and adopted by really different cultures, it's usually because it addresses a universal human challenge.
Like the old trade routes, the Silk Road, not just for goods, but for ideas.
Exactly. Philosophy, strategy, commerce. If a concept is truly revolutionary, it breaks through linguistic barriers. The dual naming here suggests this formula is intended to be language agnostic.
That it's designed to be just as applicable in Tehran as it is in Tokyo, or Toronto, or Timbuktu.
Exactly. It speaks to this global hunger for frameworks that can transcend our cultural biases.
Yeah.
We often have these simplified buckets. Western success is profit-driven, Eastern success is principle-driven.
Sure.
But the existence of the Hikaru Kaihatsu success formula, documented in both languages, it implies a synthesis, a unified approach, where brilliant development is the shared goal, no matter where you are.
So the translation itself is part of the promise.
I think so.
It's saying this is not some niche piece of knowledge. This is world-class architecture for achievement.
It is. And the absence of the specific steps, which is frustrating if you want to use it right now,
Yeah, a little bit.
it also allows us to reflect on what we would expect a truly universal formula to include. If this thing is successful globally, it can't rely on specific cultural norms. It has to be built on foundational human truths.
Okay, let's run with that. Let's step into the shoes of Hikaru Kaihatsu for a second. If you were writing this formula for brilliant development, what would the absolute first non-negotiable step have to be, just based on the title's mandate for clarity and rigor?
Oh, it absolutely has to be self-definition.
Self-definition.
Without a doubt. If Hikaru is light, you must first shine that light internally. You have to define your own personal, measurable metrics for what success even is before you can apply the formula to it.
Otherwise, you're running a perfect equation with no defined answer.
Exactly. The equation fails before you even begin.
I agree completely. You cannot develop brilliantly in a direction you haven't clearly defined. But here's a philosophical problem for me. If the formula is perfect, if it offers this precision and rigor, why do so many people who chase these structured success frameworks still fall short? What makes the formula fail in the real world?
That's a great point. And I think the answer is that if the formula is sound, then the failure isn't in the structure. The failure is in the input variables. The user. The formula relies on the user providing high-quality inputs. We're talking resources, time, energy, and most importantly, commitment. If your own self-assessment is flawed, or if your commitment is inconsistent, well, the rigorous equation is going to produce messy results.
So a perfect formula demands perfect appearance, perfect preparation.
Right.
It's basically a mirror. It shows you exactly where you're being sloppy or where you're hesitating or maybe where your own definition of success is actually contradictory.
Precisely. The formula doesn't guarantee a result. It guarantees a correlation between defined inputs and defined outputs. If you fail, the failure is just evidence that one of your variables, either your action or your definition, is misaligned with that core principle of brilliant development.
That implies a level of accountability that few other frameworks would dare to claim.
A huge level.
And when you think about it, the lasting impact of just this title, it encourages systemic thinking. It tells you that your life, your business, your goals, they're all processes. Processes that can and should be optimized. You don't just react to chaos. You apply a proven structure to achieve clarity.
It's the highest form of critical thinking applied to personal and professional achievement. It's trying to move beyond just hope and inspiration and demanding a disciplined, repeatable methodology. Every successful endeavor, whether they call it the Hikaru Kaihatsu success formula or something else, operates on a specific pattern.
A pattern of resource allocation, decision-making, setting objectives.
Right. And this framework, given its philosophical roots in development and light, insists that this pattern must be positive, illuminating, and always moving forward. The structure of the title itself sets the ethical and intellectual mandate.
Okay, so that brings us toward the close of this very specific yet surprisingly expansive deep dive.
It really was.
While the specific excerpts were limited, well, entirely to the title, the Hikaru Kaihatsu Success Formula, the name itself gave us a pretty profound conversation.
It did. It gave us a conversation about the necessary architecture and the rigor required in the pursuit of high achievement.
So the analysis really centered on the structural promise that's contained just within those few words.
That's right. And I think the core takeaway is this. The very existence of a meticulously named success formula like this one, it kind of compels you, the listener, to stop relying on, implicit hopes and to start explicitly defining your own framework for achievement.
Are your steps defined? Is your output measurable?
Exactly.
It's a call to action that's just wrapped up in a title. Don't rely on chance. Define the structure. And so, if every well-defined success framework relies on these specific, measurable steps, here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. What is the single most critical, non-negotiable step in your personal formula for success? The one step that provides the necessary Hikaru, that light for everything else, that you need to rigorously define or maybe refine today?
That's the question. Reflect on the commitment implied by creating a formula and then apply